have your NPCs be intelligent enough to know where information might be found.
I'm just thinking of that scenario where it's like, well, I don't know nothing about that.
I don't know nothing about no electrome.
But maybe Brian, the noble down the street on Throw Park Way, he might know something around 2 p.m. If you showed it, it's like, what?
Anything could be thinking about it. Or like, yeah, maybe Bran the Noble, who was mentioned during the initial introduction to this campaign, he might know something. He just busts out the map and he's like, all right, the monster's over here. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
And I'm Graythorn.
And today's topic is 12. Stuck players. Ooh. That's a cute little topic.
That's a cutie little topic.
I'm so fucking tired. Stuck players. I imagine we're I love how I have to imagine, by the way, what we were thinking when we write topic names. Because we don't write descriptions. I imagine we're talking about like when players are not sure what to do next.
I mean, the one that always like, whenever I think about, or I think when I initially thought about this topic when we brought it up, was when we ran your first game, your first game,
Realm Watchers,
where we went to like this first part of the town that you made a map for. And it's just all these buildings.
You guys decided to check every single house, and there was nothing in the houses. Well, because so you're like,
in the context of the game, it's as far as we were aware, it's just like, hey, there's something happening in this town. Go investigate. And it's not like we're in a noir setting or anything like that, where like mystery stuff just happens all the time. We're just adventurers. That's the whole Realm Watcher premise. Is like
it's different every time.
It's different every time. We're just adventurers going on quests. We just have a guild that operates in a particular way that gives us quests in like a very fast way and a very like easy way. And so we just show up and do the thing. So we show up to a town and everything is desolate. Like there's
the first neighborhood that you walk through was like abandoned.
Abandoned, yeah.
And you guys checked every single house. That was the first time I ever ran 5e as well. So I was like, just letting you do it.
Yeah.
And you just like, all right, I'm going to go into this house. I'm going to make my checks. Cool. There's nothing here. I'm going to go into the next house. Cool. And then like in my mind, I was like, oh, it's D&D. You got to describe everything. So like, I gave a description for each house and what was different and whatnot, but then your checks all just kind of came up with nothing, and I just let you continue doing that for like an hour. And you guys were like, I guess we just go home. There's nothing here. There's no hints, no clues. I don't know what to do next.
I think was it our first game?
That was the first Realm Watchers.
Under that premise, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the very first Realm Watchers. So we didn't really have a formula or anything yet, other than the discussed formula, but we weren't entrenched in the formula by any means.
Yeah, in terms of like being a player in that mode, that game only had me and Gray. And so like often I don't remember exactly how I felt in the moment, but it was like as I was trying to do things and nothing was coming up, I would look over to Gray and be like, hey, like what are we doing here? Like what's the next step? And I don't know how you felt about it I don't know if you remember how you felt about it in that moment.
I don't feel like I was particularly lost. I was just looking for clues, and there's just a whole street of houses that we could have looked at. So we did.
Yeah, so you did. Yeah, I mean, the answer is now way more obvious to me, which is like, I was pretty young as a DM, but yeah, drop hints. That's your job as a DM. Drop hints. Like very easily, you check the first house and we go through the full description and all of the checks. And you go to the second house, just call for a check right away. And then we're like, yeah, you find kind of the same thing. And then when you depart from that house, as soon as I find out you guys are going to check a third house, just be like, you guys check the subsequent houses. Nothing seems to be going on in this neighborhood. Yeah. And it's just your wording there where it's like, nothing's going on here. Let's go elsewhere, like maybe to a different neighborhood.
Yeah, a little bit of like meta injection to be like,
Yeah.
hey, this area's done. I'm just trying to remember from like, I think because you always had that knack for improvising and for coming up with stuff as stuff was.
Yeah, so I was like Matt Mercer level describing every single
Yeah,
fucking
that-
household.
Yes. So like each house felt like it had some level of significance because there was like we were finding stuff.
Yeah, why would you have either prepared or described this house to this degree
Yeah,
if there was nothing there?
Yeah, it's the curse of a GM accidentally getting their party stuck because they put a little bit too much effort into describing something.
Yeah. That's happened to us multiple times though, of like players just been like, I'm not sure what to do. I have a lot of things that I do to work against that before it happens. I love giving out just random, hey Nix, make me an intelligence check.
Yeah.
You're not stuck, you're still investigating, blah, blah, blah. And then you make an intelligence check, you pass it. Low DC if I really want you to, this is me wanting you to have information, right? And it's almost always based off of something that you would already have. And so it feels in character where it's like, you remember that first person you talked to mentioned this thing and you've not explored that yet. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you just throw in your players a bone to like, I know a lot of players don't like having a bone thrown to them, but you're doing it because you want to as the DM, because
Sure.
you want your players to stop fucking wasting time doing nothing.
Yeah.
And you recognizing that it's not your players' fault that they're wasting time doing nothing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think also it's a little bit of what you said earlier, which is like, it's the way that you present it.
Yeah.
I think in most games, in most scenarios, the way you present that information and how you say it, it could almost feel like it isn't, it doesn't quite come across to the player as a bone thrown.
Or meta or whatever.
Or meta
yeah.
or anything. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah. So your players start talking to each other or they start looking at their sheet and they're like, oh, yeah, there's this thing. And they like...
Well, literally, like I just said, so my little intelligence check ones, that's like a preventative measure. But in the case of the neighborhood, in that particular case, like I said, where it's like you check the first house, full description and investigation checks. Cool. Second house, just do the investigation check. Don't go into the full description. If the house doesn't matter at that point, you describe it a little bit, but you don't need to go into vast amounts of detail because you're trying to deter your players from doing this activity. You'll let them do it if they're insistent, but don't emphasize it as if it's important. And then when you hear them at the table discussing amongst themselves investigating future houses, you don't need to stop them. Just accept the fact that they're doing it and don't make them roll for it. Just be like, okay, so you guys are going to continue checking houses in this neighborhood? Yeah. Okay. You go into like the next house and you kind of find a similar thing. And you go to the next house, similar. It's abandoned. There doesn't seem to be very many clues. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot going on here. You check the subsequent 3 houses and it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's much to see here.
Yeah. Like in the case where like there is like it almost seems to be like a persistent or similar thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
Like
You could kind of latch onto that. I mean, it's different. Every case is obviously different because there's also like, this could be a whole topic on its own. So probably post sponsors, but players getting stuck because they're failing rolls and whatnot, or players just not seeing the clues, like they're doing the investigation properly. But it's kind of a different story. It's happened multiple times at our tables with various DMs, where we're just like, I'm not sure at all what we're supposed to be doing right now, or not what we're. You know what the hook is?
Yeah.
Because that is another version of stuck players. Is like, I don't know why we're here at all. And it's like, yeah, something's fallen real short in the entirety of that campaign.
Yeah.
I don't think we even need to talk about that one that much, where it's just like, yeah, if you've not, as a DM, put onto your players why they are in a place
if you haven't
at all.
If you haven't set the hook properly.
Yeah, exactly. But in a case where the hook is set properly and they're doing things and it's relatively the wrong things and they're not sure what to do next, it's your job as a DM to kind of drop hints, drop clues, help them onto the path of figuring it out so that they can make checks in a place that actually matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole like failing rolls and failing, like, I don't know if did you want to hold off on that, or
No, we can talk about it if you want to.
just because like I've had that as a DM. I've had that as a DM where like it's the relief happens when one other player manages to succeed. Like if you have a couple of, party members and one member is trying and they don't. And so there is a bit of a relief when another party member tries and they succeed.
Yeah.
So there's a relief in that the rest of the party can move forward in the correct direction.
Yeah.
It does suck for that one player, like that one player just not being able to, like, they had the gumption. They were the first ones to volunteer to.
Yeah, but even so, like, not even talking about failed checks, but even just like, unbeknownst to the player, bad investigation. Like,
Yeah.
you're talking to the wrong people
Sure.
who don't have information. Unbeknownst to you, you don't know that.
Or people that are unwilling to share, and
Yeah.
you don't know the reason why they're unwilling to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if they're closed off and like, some of that could be you as the DM, where like you can do that thing we've talked about in another episode where you kind of use your passive perceptions to be like you had a conversation with somebody.
Or
and you're
passive
like,
insight. Yeah.
Yeah, passive insight. And you're like, as you're talking to this person and they're not sharing anything, you do realize it does seem like they're not necessarily telling you everything that they know.
Yeah.
So like there's some amount of like, you can kind of dig in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Whether or not your players are going to, whatever choices they make after that point.
Or if you're someone that sucks at navigating or paying attention to player passives, just call for checks.
Yeah.
If they're talking to the second person in a row that is like hiding information and they're just not making insight checks, and as far as they know, these are just people without information, just be like, hey, make me an insight check real quick. And they make the insight check. And then even if they fail, levels of success, you could be like, there's something up. And if they succeed, you could tell them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do to just like hold the hands of your little baby players.
I was also thinking if you had a party, if you had something where like one player is doing the conversation, you have another player who, best case scenario, it's another player who doesn't necessarily get a lot of playtime or has like, is a little harsher on playtime. If you ask them to like, if they're a passer or if they're like a witness to the conversation, to be like, hey, could you make this check? And so they make the check. It's like, you notice as your friend is talking to this person, like the person they're talking to is a little fidgety. They're kind of like scratching the back of their head, or they're kind of
something
like
happens in the
arm.
background. Someone else looks uncomfortable, and you only notice that because you're paying attention to the conversation, but not engaged in it.
Yeah, you notice. Yeah, the person in the back of the shop is leaning over, listening carefully to the conversation.
Yeah,
and like they've stopped what they're doing. They're stopped, chopping vegetables in the back.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, so now you can. The moments of potentially having your player stuck in a situation, you can even, as a DM, kind of bring out other players in the party to be like, hey,
that's actually a great use of it.
Yeah.
Have someone else, when you're throwing out a freebie insight check, have someone else make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially again, if you know your party well enough where like there are certain members who aren't the most active when it comes to play or role play.
That's something you can give them is like, you can give them the ability to be the observer. They don't like role playing. They don't like noticing things. Cool. Just give them insight checks every now and then.
Yeah.
Just as being an observer. So it's like, oh, you're not in this conversation doing nothing. You're in this conversation making sure the conversation's going well.
Yeah.
Without engaging. Yeah, that's a cool thing to do. And all of this is in the light of, or at least most of this that I'm talking about is like things that you as the DM want to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the same as, because we had a whole conversation about letting players fail, and it's okay to fail, and players like begging for check after check after check, and it's like, nah, you fucked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? this is more in situations where it's like you want them in this story. You want them engaged. You want them hooked, and they're not succeeding in some manner. They're stuck. They don't know how to proceed.
Or it's that scenario could also be where there's a story you want to tell, and the previous case of like letting your players fail is they're kind of going down a route that isn't necessarily like, like they're kind of doing something either reckless or you're like not at all what you imagined or intended them to like figure it out. So you can be generous in those moments, or you can be like, nope, this was the wrong direction. Like, sorry, you guys are trying, and it's just like, try something new, try something in a different direction. Yeah. By either doing the meta injection stuff or making something happen.
And the meta injection stuff's so easy too, because like, it's literally like, oh, they talk to the blacksmith and they talk to the tavern keeper and they talk to the shoemaker, and it's like, they fail, and then it's like, you have talked to these people and person after person of this class, like social economic class of people, and they don't seem to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You're literally just dropping a hand and like, stop talking to poor people. Like, just anywhere you could drop hints. I mean, overall, that's the best thing you could do. Like, if you can get away with it, don't do it with checks. Don't do it with free checks. Don't do it with passives. Just do it with the way you describe things. That comes in time, though, as a DM. There's nothing wrong with the freebie checks to get people in route. But also just, like, make your players feel smart. You know what I mean? So when you're like, they're talking to, like, the blacksmith and the shoemaker, and you're like, yeah, none of the laborers you're talking to seem to have any information. Maybe stop taking the labor ants,
It's also like doing that when your players are actually engaged in the, like, don't just meta inject and don't just do that like as soon as your players get into town.
No, I'm doing it in an obvious way right now, but like in that scenario, like it's like, oh, none of the people that you're talking to, as you've talked to the blacksmith, you've talked to the shoemaker, no one doing jobs like that seem to have any knowledge on this criminal underground. And it's like, oh, maybe I should find criminals,
I just imagine the scenario of somebody listening to what we're saying and they just like take it like a certain way where like, oh, here are my players. You're going to this town for a mystery. Your players go to the town and you're like, in this town, there's this mystery. And if you happen to go talk to the laborers, maybe.
Yeah, no, don't do that. No, let your players act. Let your players fail. And then off the back of their failure, do what you should do as a DM, which is like, describe it, paint the picture.
Yeah.
And then inject little hints in your descriptions that might lead them to something. Like, whatever, it's something to do with gold, and they're talking to all these people, and it's like, you notice that, like, you're here for gold, and all of these people that you've talked to whom only have traded in silver don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe find someone that trades in gold.
Or if I want to intend to get Sov stuck, I just, like, the mystery revolves around Electrum, And then you just won't ask anybody any questions. Oh, no. And then you'll just leave my table.
I'll just play chaos and kill the blacksmith, kill the shoemaker, kill anybody trading in gold.
Do you have any strategies that you can think of, Gray, of like things you do?
That's a kind of a difficult one because I do try my best to avoid like little meta injections here and there, like as much as I can possible.
I try not to be obvious with that. I know I'm being very obvious on mic right now.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Also, when I say it too, it's
I'm not
last resort.
I try to avoid like all these working class people that you spoke to don't seem to understand anything, and throw that into the air like that. But I try to avoid that as much as possible when I play, because unless unless a player has a directed question about
Sure.
the things that they've found or the lack of things that they found.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, it does seem like something that maybe a more noble person or a foreign emissary or blah, 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 blah. And that's when I would get into the metal injection. Like they have to, and for me, I try to wait for them to initiate that route of conversation with me before I actually give it to them. I've noticed that it's kind of difficult for me to actually realize when to stem the tide of lostness.
Yeah.
When a party is getting lost, because like I don't know, my parties don't tend to be very open with their thoughts constantly at the time.
That's something that I have to fight for at my tables is like forcing above table I say forcing, but just initiating above table conversations. And like I do a lot of like, hey, Gray, while Nix is talking to this person, you've been really quiet. What is Gray's reaction to what's going on?
I like to do that.
Yeah. What's Gray thinking about?
Just because, like, when I'm a player, I like to, when I'm doing things, sometimes have like I will announce at the table as I'm doing something what I am thinking of that I'm doing.
Yeah, the intention.
Yeah, or like oh yeah, Botan is going to this place because he intends to talk to Mr. Morris about this and that, but also he wants to let out a few seeds of questions, something like that. Like
players that state their intentions it's so helpful. Because like if they're like, I go into the bar and my intentions is to look a little bit shady so that someone comes to talk to me. That's so fucking helpful because there's always that break between player and DM and player where we all think differently. We view the world differently. We have different perspectives. We're like when I have a player that walks into a bar and they're like, I'm just going to go sit in the corner. Okay. Are you doing anything? Nope. Just going to go sit in the corner.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
When a player,
what's the other players doing?
When a player like lets their intentions be known, it helps a lot to stem that like the blood flow of I'm getting stuck, right? You're able to find where that stuckness is going to come from, and you're going to be able to kind of direct things in a little way.
Yeah, and also like being better able to read like what's like because sometimes a player or somebody will do something and you're just like, I don't know what any of that means. Like,
I'm going to go sit in the corner could easily mean I want to give this other player the floor for a bit. I want to let them explore. Or it could mean that you're uninterested in coming to this bar. It really could mean anything. But when you're like, well, I'm not going to order a drink because I want to look conspicuous enough where someone, I don't care who, comes to talk to me. So I'm going to go just sit in the corner. The action's exactly the same, but now the DM knows. You're like, yeah, the bartender kind of glances up at you. He clocks you. He's going to continue his conversation.
All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, and then a few minutes go by and he clocks you again and kind of gives you a little bit of a look. Do you respond at all? And give him the opportunity to act shady. No? Okay. And then after a bit, you see the bartender whisper something to the barmaid. And the barmaid, you see her walk around and she is beelining towards you and comes to the table and they're like, hey, if you're not going to order anything, you need to get out of here. You know, like all of it, because I knew your intentions, I could better read what your character's trying to do rather than you just assuming that I know what you want.
So like, I agree to that, to like players stating that to your DM is awesome. It's a really great thing as your DM to be able to be able to mold the game around that intention. Now, like,
and the understanding of the intention,
like barely relevant at all. Like if there was a DM who like, as a DM, it doesn't seem like the best thing to state your intentions with characters when you, but like if you just had like a character that had like, you were just kind of trying a funny voice with. And as a DM, you were just like, there's no intention of malice from this character. Is there any, like, just randomly just saying
tips
this,
on that.
if they're like, as a DM, if you guys got advice?
Your players might get stuck having a bad idea about that guy.
I got tips on that though. The same way that you might almost above table describe your own character when bringing a character to a table.
Yeah.
Describe the character to your players where it's like, you see this guy walk up in his elegant clothing and whatnot. He clearly has money. He's the kind of guy that has more money than he knows what to do with it.
Sure.
He also doesn't have the demeanor as if he's very well versed in like black markets or anything or any
his
type of
demeanor
trade
is
like
more
that.
aloof than
It's
it is.
more aloof, like he's willing to just throw money at a frivolous thing despite it being an above board thing that shouldn't cost this much.
Yeah.
He's probably overpaying for what is otherwise a mundane job. As he steps forward and spreads his arms, whoa! And all of a sudden, like, no one's going to be like, this guy's shady because you described him. You told your players he's not shady.
He's just
stupid.
a crypto bro, guys.
Yeah. He walks up with the demeanor of a crypto bro. Well, yeah.
God, I wish all crypto bros sounded like that. That'd make it so much easier.
As far as meta and not having to use DM description meta injections, the other thing that you can do as far as hiding the hint or the clue or whatever, and this is one of the easiest ones, is you go to the blacksmith who clearly knows nothing, and that's who your characters are talking to, and this is the third person they talk to. Roleplay it. Blacksmith could just be like, well, I don't know nothing about something like that. You want to get some information on something like that?
Yeah.
You're going to want to talk to someone more highborn.
Yes.
I'm out here just working. and immediately, like, that feels like they did something.
Yeah.
They talked
yeah.
to someone they decided to talk to, and they got a clue. Now, the clue was a clue that, in your mind, as you wrote the story, didn't ever need to happen because they should just go talk to the rich people. So it's like injecting a clue, but they don't ever know that. You know what I mean? So doing it through role playing doesn't feel like meta at all. Well, it's not meta. It is at the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like that's also just a really easy answer. It's just like have your NPCs be intelligent enough to know where information might be found.
I'm just thinking of that scenario where it's like, well, I don't know nothing about that.
I don't know nothing
But
about
maybe-
no electrome.
But maybe Brian, the noble down the street on Throw Park Way, he might know something around 2 p.m. If you showed it, it's like, what?
Anything could be thinking of. Or like, yeah, maybe Brand the Noble, who was mentioned during the initial introduction to this campaign, he might know something.
I hear something's been following him around town.
He just busts out the map and he's like, all right, the monster's over here.
You're actually going to want to have some fire resistance. But I don't know nothing about that.
But that is a great skill to have. It's why I like towns so much. There's people to talk to, and anytime there's people to talk to, there's things to do. And that's why I love NPC followers so much, because an NPC follower can be like, I did it recently where they were interrogating someone, and one of the NPC followers they wanted in the room with the interrogation, and she's kind of a badass. So they did all of their lines of questioning, and then she, in a very cool way, threatened the person being interrogated and asked a question, and the question seemed reasonable. And then I, as also the person being interrogated, answered the question. It's just like, of all the information that you guys are getting, I also want you to have this one.
Yeah.
Enjoy. But yeah, having townsfolk to talk to makes D&D so much easier because you're not giving away clues. So when you write a one shot, when you write a campaign, you write your clues. This person has this information. This person has this information. This person has this information. Most other people won't have that information. But anybody in town might know who would be better to talk to.
Yeah.
The grunty blacksmith would be like, why are you talking to me about this? Go talk to Bran. He might know that, right? It's very easy to get to information by injecting clues where your players are investigating and not have it feel railroady where you're like, nope, nothing is going to solve this problem unless you find the clues. Give clues to your clues. And those you improv.
Yeah.
The clues to your clues, you improv. You don't really write those. I mean, you could write that as a basic rule of thumb if you're a newer DM. Have a sticky note just being like, hey, if they get stuck and they ask anybody, they will point them in the direction of clue A.
Yeah. That could easily be something. Yeah. Like you just have that as an overall idea. It'd be like, oh, if they talk to anybody in this part of town, they're going to direct them over here. And if they talk to this part of town, they're going to direct them over here. Or again, it's who knows how your world is set up and what you're doing. It could easily just be, like you said, an overall, they talk to anybody, and it could just, if it seems like they're not going anywhere with it, like direct them in this direction. Like, you know.
We're like, oh, we don't deal with shady folk over here in this part of the city. You want to go over to where the ruffians live, over in that part of the city.
You want to go where I get my drugs. And it's over there.
Oh, you looking for drugs?
I don't sell them, but I partake.
I don't do drugs, but my nephew got in trouble for doing drugs.
Yeah,
Maybe talk to my nephew.
Yeah.
Boom. Clue to a clue to a clue.
And then you got to talk to a drug-addled nephew.
Yeah. I have found, since I started pro DMing, my opinions have changed in a lot of those things. Like, the only time at this point I think it would be like I would unequivocally not help in an investigation is one that was meant to be there for intrigue, not meant to be solved. It's cool if they solve it, but it's not meant for them to solve it. That I will let them dead end on. But like any hook that my players try to go down, I've learned the reality that, and it doesn't mean that I will always, I don't just give anything out for free. That's not what I'm saying. But just understand, as a DM, if there's a mystery to be solved, a puzzle to be solved, your players want it solved. That's how they want things to end. It could solve badly. There could be consequences to them fucking up all of their rolls. It could be, it could be air quotes too late. It doesn't matter. They want it to be solved. They will be unsatisfied or dissatisfied if it doesn't get solved. Yeah, and that's kind of a new outlook that I've had since I started playing away from our home table, because our home table is obviously different in so many ways, which is like the majority of people out there, they're okay with consequences, but they're not okay with dead ends. They're not okay with just letting a hook go. Or
feeling like 2 hours gets wasted.
Or feeling like everything was a waste. Yeah. And
even the stuff we're talking about, like the stuff about the meta injection or the character cluing in on something, this is like, the thing is this is still with the idea that you're rewarding your players' effort for trying to do something.
Yeah.
Like they are initiating. They are like, even like Gray when he brought up, like, I'll give you that meta injection if my player initiates that line of conversation. This isn't like your players walk into town and they overhear a grumbling, wow, the drugs are over in this east corner. And they're like, hey, that guy just said where the drugs are and our things about drugs.
So you could do it also, again, improving to make your players feel like they're getting something out of it. You can inject unrelated things that feel like clues. You're trying to find an assassination bureau in this town. You have no idea who to talk to. You've never been to this town before. You don't know where thieves guilds or shady shit like that are. You go talk to the blacksmith. What the fuck would a blacksmith talk about or know about an assassination bureau? They just wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Let them fail. And then as they're walking away and they pass an alleyway, there's some guy that's like, hey kid, you want to buy some drugs? And it's totally unrelated. But if they talk to that guy, he clearly knows shady people, and the shady people he knows might know shadier people who know something about assassins.
Yeah. And even like less directly in terms of like having somebody reach out to them, unless they're close enough to have overheard the party say that they're looking for something, whatever. It could just be maybe you see a sale happen in the alley.
Sure. Anything you can do to make your players feel like they found it.
Yeah. We're like, oh, like one of your, like, what's your passive perception? Like that same thing. Like, oh, you noticed that somebody over there they handed something over to somebody as the person looks back and forth and they catch your eye and one person darts away.
Yeah.
And the other person seems to like cover up their coat. And so like, oh, it's also like, oh, your DM kind of gave this to you. This usually means something.
Yeah.
When your DM says a thing and kind of points something out, most parties are not going to be like, okay, that's interesting. We're going to keep, I really wanted to talk to that other blacksmith. So like, we'll just ignore that.
You know what you shouldn't do, because it would make you an asshole, is put like 5 of those things, and none of them lead to the clues.
I was actually gonna talk to Gray
Fucking Gray.
about red herrings.
Fucking Gray and his red herrings all over the place. I'm just trying to make the world feel lived in.
Yeah. Well,
Confusing us with all these different hooks that have nothing to do with our story.
expecting my players to sift through all that, and they sift through it wrong.
It's a one shot, and we have a hard out at 11, so we're only going to be able to play for 3 hours. And Gray's over here like, so that's like, what, 10 red herrings?
Yes. Yeah. Like, man, I really wanted to put the full 20 that I had pre-written.
Yeah.
I guess I'm only going to put 10 in here.
Yeah. What are we doing? We're going after an assassination bureau. That's what we're trying to find. We're walking down the street and we see a guy approach another guy out of the corners of our eyes with our passive perception. And as he approaches that guy, he like kind of presses against him, shuffles around really quickly. I can't really make out what's going on. He walks away. And that one guy standing in the middle of the street looks around very confused before blood dribbles out of his mouth and falls to the ground. Holy shit. That guy just got assassinated. Let's follow the assassin. Anyways, totally unrelated to the assassin bureau.
It was just a guy just doing a thing.
He just had a vendetta against him. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, after about an hour and a half of following, questioning.
Why are my players so stupid? Why did they follow that guy?
As if my red herrings are that blaringly bad.
They're not, to be honest. No. To be honest, me and Nix are just idiots. Like, we're looking for an assassination bureau, and you're like, and just outside of town, there's a camp of tabaxi, and they're just kind of hanging out, not really doing anything. They're like cooking barbecue on the grill. We want to go talk to the tabaxi.
Well,
why?
The thing is, for the most part, this is an exaggeration, but also a lot of those red herrings usually have a kobold in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's no way.
We're not gonna not talk to the kobold.
If Gray is running a game, there's not gonna be a moment where I'm just gonna be like, oh, there's a kobold. I'm not talking to him. It's like, no. I want a full conversation. I want to figure out everything about this.
You see a kobold, and in his other hand, there's a big red fish. Some may call it a herring.
I want to talk to that kobold.
I want to go talk to him.
I want to know everything about his family.
In those games, the red herrings had something that was useful or some information.
Yeah.
But you guys never actually got that.
Yeah.
Like the Wizard Museum had wands and stuff and staves and stuff to fight the monster.
I took one.
Yeah.
My character died,
yeah.
But I took one.
Yeah.
What was it? I exploded after a certain amount of uses, or no time. I exploded after a certain amount of time, and I just used that to like bomb like half of the bad guys.
Mm-hmm. That was a fun one. But in my other games, I don't put anywhere near as many red herrings just because the world's always there. So, I don't have to build stuff.
Yeah.
The red herrings, they're in a sea of red herrings, so it doesn't really stand out to them as much. But sometimes when my players get stuck, there is no role play or stat worthy of pulling them out of the water.
Yeah, that does happen.
Mm-hmm. So, like, for one example, for the last campaign that I ran, they were following a guy. They knew that this guy was a part of whatever conspiracy to kill some princess person, and they're trying to figure him out. And he goes into a room. They hear talking. It gets heated. He comes out, and they go into the room, and there's nobody there. So one person investigates, fails. Another person investigates, fails. I'm like, all right, well, that's the 2 investigations that I'm going to allow them to. And then person number 3 is like, can I investigate? Like, you know what? Everybody investigates.
Yeah. Oh, I just do that now. I don't care anymore.
2 of you guys failed, investigate. You investigate, you investigate, you investigate. Fail.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. It happens so often when my players are talking about it. I'm like, I say this so often where I'm like, anybody that wants to make an insight check can.
Yeah.
And I do establish at my table where it's like, like, hey, be reasonable about it. Like, would you have a reason to think something's up with this character? But if you do, anybody and everybody, just make me a fucking check. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Just everybody roll. Cool.
Yeah, I've started just doing that.
I just don't care. Oh, everybody wants to make an investigation? Just everybody make an investigation. I don't care.
Yep. And so,
depending on the task.
At that point, there's really nothing in this room. The room is supposed to just be an empty room that the person that this guy was contacting has rented out so he can contact him.
Yeah.
And he's contacting him through like throwing some plant on a fire and it allows him to open up a channel of communication through it.
Yeah.
That's it. All they had to do was take a look at the fireplace. Eventually they did, but they never picked up the ash with the unburnt flowers in it. They just got the wood that the flowers were burned on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's nothing much more I could do with this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this little magical room that they have in mind to find a clue that they don't necessarily need because they already have they already know that these people are involved, and now they still want to figure this out.
Yeah, they feel like there's more still that they can dig up versus like even if they did get the clue, it's not going to be that much more beneficial.
Oh, okay. So a tip that I would give in that. So they are you're if I'm understanding correctly, they already have the clues, or otherwise say they already have all of the clues they're going to find.
They realistically have all the pertinent information. Yeah.
Yeah. I outro the scene, not the game, but the scene. I'm like, all right, so you guys investigate. You have the note. You've checked out the place. There doesn't seem to be anything else of interest here. What are you guys doing next? And then immediately puts them in the mindset of, that's done. Get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah.
I just outro scenes.
I tried doing that too.
Yeah, that's a different story. Like, oh my God. Okay, actually, I could talk about that a little bit. My Saturday day campaign is chaos. It's just mania. It is very loosey-goosey, silly, goofy fun times. And there's a mystery going. The whole game is a mystery. That's the hook, right?
Yeah.
There's a criminal guild, a mysterious criminal guild, and they have to figure out who they are, where they are, and then eliminate them. And I had a new player join. We're like 6-7 months into this campaign, I think. And a new player join, and as they were going through like role playing, getting introduced into the story and whatnot, they were like, "Why are there so many adventure hooks?" And I was like, "Oh, that's because the other players keep finding clues and then not following through to the end of the clue. They just hop from hook to hook to hook to hook to hook." So, yeah, nothing's been solved yet. And you have a lot of clues to latch on to.
There's just a
spoiler alert, they all lead to the answer.
There's just a character with a giant notebook of just like, these all kind of seem to lead somewhere, but
yeah, let's go do something else now.
What's the bard in town talking about?
But that's like a classic case of like, you guys have all like the information. You have clues. You just got to follow through with them.
Yeah.
But then they'll have clues, and then they're like, let's go check out the college. And it's like, they've never been there. Nothing's leading them there. It just sounds like a cool place.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you don't want to, I mean, you were just in a dead painter's house who had clues that literally named the criminal guild by name, as well as named the mayor and this other nobleman. You don't want to continue with that?
No,
you just want to go to the school. Yeah. Okay, see what's going on in college. Let's go to college. Fuck it. Let's go see what's going on in college. And then there's like clues at the college of things that are going on. They're like, sweet. We met a really cool wizard at the college. They're going to build stuff for us. Anyways, let's go check out some vineyards. Let's go to this other food place. And they just have clues everywhere in town. And it's like, the only big difference though is that when I'm kind of allowing to happen, where I'm not holding their hands or gut, because they're having fun. And like, who cares? That's the point of the game, right? Having fun is the point of the game. They're having fun hopping from hook to hook to hook. So what do I care? I'm not going to interrupt them.
Yeah, I mean, if you have no like set end goal for anything, where like, especially if people are like, "Hey, man, you know that you're paying for these couple of hours. Like, do whatever you want."
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do. If you guys want to fuck off and do this other thing, go do this other thing.
Yeah. I think if I was like, similar situation with like Gray. If Gray was my DM and I was paying for Gray's time, I'd be going to every red herring I could think of.
And perfectly happy with it, yeah. And that's fine. But yeah, I like if I wanted to, I could be like, I could very easily, at any point, I would just take one of the NPC's followers that they have. They have multiple,
Yeah.
and be like, hey, what if we follow this path that you guys already know about? If I wanted to push them in a direction,
Sure.
There's so many. They have so many clues at this point. They have a book full. They could write a book with only clues and hooks in.
Yeah, I've had to use an NPC party member to kind of do that. Although I do tend to try and avoid that too, unless that NPC is like very much like they're their own person. They're actually a part of the party. But this NPC was more like, oh, that's just that character's nanny.
Yeah, that's different.
Nanny / bodyguard.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on like what do you care about. So in that campaign, fun is the goal, or the overarching what people care about.
So when they go off off the rails,
who cares?
It's fine.
But like, I think in my 2 other serious campaigns, I probably would kind of guide them and lead them down a route. And they would want that in terms of if they felt lost at all. I'd be like, well, you have these clues. And I would just do that through, again, an NPC follower, because both groups have, not only one of them actually has NPC followers at the moment. But still, it's like, yeah, you guys have a path. Why don't we see where it goes and whatnot in a more serious campaign? But in a fuck around campaign, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, also, like, I don't think I ever said it, but it was something that Gray was talking about. We bounced off that idea where Gray was saying that you don't have a lot of players who like express that they, a lot of what they're doing, and having players express their intention when they're doing things is very beneficial.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff we talk about is almost to head off when players get stuck.
Yeah.
And like we also cover stuff like when they are stuck, the things to do.
Yeah.
But like, me as a DM, my experience has always been at the point of frustration, which isn't where you want to be. Like,
as the DM frustrated?
No. When your players are frustrated, when your players become openly frustrated.
Yeah.
I don't like, that's the part that I'm trying to avoid with all these different things. Cause I've had it happen to me. Like I've had players at my table just being like, like shrugging their shoulders, and like it takes them out of the game. And it's like that's the part that sucks, is like, this is all supposed to be fun. We're all supposed to kind of have it, like sitting at the table, having a good time with each other.
Yeah.
And like doing things. And as soon as people get frustrated, it's like, they're more likely to go on their phone. They're more likely to stop paying attention. They're more likely to stop interacting, and maybe even not show up the next week, because it's like they're not able, there's frustration that they get at the table. So like trying to head that off, as best as you can with a lot of these little like.
It's definitely a lot harder to come back from.
Yeah.
I do think you can, but at that point, if people are like visually upset at the table, I think that's just like maybe we have a talk above table.
That's what I was going to say.
Kind of moment where it's like, hey, I get that you're frustrated. I get that you're having blah, 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 blah. So like, let's go over what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, that once you get there, the thing to do at that point, at least what I think would be, is to have that conversation. Is to open up the communication with your players.
Yeah.
Have that above board conversation when you guys are like, hey, I know this happened. You know, do my best to avoid situations like this in the future. I want to make sure, just being able to talk it through with your players. Don't be hesitant to have that kind of conversation when your players become frustrated by a scenario that you. Yeah. And even then, like, depending on how new or how experienced you are as a DM, it'd be having that conversation benefits you as the DM, where you're like, if you could clue into like, how come players didn't see the things that I was trying to lay out? Like, I thought I laid out my stuff where, you'd walk into town and you'd get right to the thing that you needed to do.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing?
I mean, to a degree, again, though, like all of these things that we've talked about, we're talking about them in the light as if they are preventative measures.
Yeah.
And they are. but also they're just things that you should be doing, in my
Sure.
opinion. So like, you really don't get to those points of frustrations if your story is moving along, if your clues are achievable, if your checks are passable, if your hints make sense, if your hooks lead in directions. You really don't run into that.
Yeah.
So kind of back to something that you said, a reality, it's not the only reality, but a reality of the situation is if you are getting to the point where your players are frustrated, it sounds really harsh, but I think you did something wrong as a DM.
Of course.
I am a huge proponent, like a huge pusher of like, it's way underestimated player responsibility and player behavior at the table. What is reasonable? How do you be a good player at the table? And it's not all about you. Don't be the main character. Help out. Share your intentions. All of those things. I'm a huge pusher of it's super under talked about, underestimated how important player responsibility is. But in this case, I think that's mostly on the DM. If you're getting to that point of frustration, that doesn't need to be like you should hang up your wizard coat.
But understand it.
But you should reflect and realize like, okay, how do I make it more clear? What did they get tripped up on? And it's per table as well. So it's like, okay, I've run multiple games and never had this problem. Now I'm running a new game with a new table with new people and I'm running into this problem. How, trying to anticipate the mindset of your players. How are they viewing my story?
Yeah.
How are they interacting with it? How do I inject a good flow based on how they view things? So that is a part of the job of a DM is like, you're not just a storyteller when you're a DM. I wholly dislike and disagree when people consider DMs therapists, but you are hosting the table.
Yeah.
No matter what, even if it's a group of friends. When we were running G&G for like a year, I was hosting G&G. G&G ran on my timeline with my story. Because of that, I also have to pay attention to what all of the players are doing, what all of the players want, how all of the players view things. Like players that are more heroic, you do need to kind of stretch reality a little bit so that it fits within the realm of how they can understand things. Players that like brutal shit, don't give them freebies. They don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't be nice to them. Don't fudge rules. Hurt them.
Yeah.
That's what they want out of the game. And you get a lot of that from talking to players, but you also get a lot of that from playing with players.
Yeah.
And seeing how they interact session to session. And if you're getting to a point where one or many or all of your players are getting frustrated at your table, in that case, it's something that it could be two things. It's either something that you're doing or it's just a bad fit. It's a bad fit. And here's another thing that does get talked about from the player standpoint of like, oh, this player's a bad fit for this table. What I don't see get talked a lot, and I have had happen, was me realizing like, oh, I'm a bad fit as a DM for this table. They all clearly think of things similarly. I clearly think of things in a different way, and I am failing to compel them. I am failing to write characters that they like. I'm just not a good fit. Other people like my characters. Other people like my stories. So this isn't a good fit for me.
Yeah.
Or for them. I'm not a good fit. But the other end is just, you're doing something wrong. Reflect on it.
Sure.
Think about how you can cultivate maybe not the story, but the experience more for your players. If they're just trying to have a good loosey-goosey, silly, wacky, fun time, lean into it. Make things more silly and fun. If they're trying to be more serious, make it more serious. And if they're constantly not finding clues, it's because you're not leaving out the breadcrumbs properly.
Yeah. Yeah. And having that
if it's constant.
Yeah, if it's constant. And like again, having that above board conversation
is
definitely
important.
Does help with even you understanding as a DM, understanding what your players aren't seeing.
Yeah.
But you know what players also don't see?
Oftentimes.
Often don't see.
Just don't see it coming.
They just don't see it coming. And you know who else doesn't see certain things coming?
Our sponsors?
Our sponsors.
We're such.
Oh wait, that's the intro.
Yeah, you idiot. I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that. You absolute fool. It's something every single recording.
Hey.
Let's get hyped.
Let's go and roll on the loot table. Let's go and see
Let's
who
do
our
it, everybody.
sponsors will be.
Come on. Let's go.
Let's go roll on the loot table.
Today's sponsor is S5E.
All right.
I like when you giggle before reading it.
Well, you know, just a little. It's funny when sometimes they're a little bit teensy bit topical to what was said earlier, but hey, friends, listen up. Times are hard, and the state of the economy can at times make us a little weary. We've all feel it when the gold in our pocket just doesn't buy as much as it did our last adventure. And when the constant political turmoil is arising, we just don't know how far that gold will last us until our next adventure. Why wait for economic downturn to turn your veritable dragon's hoard into a kobold stash when you could hedge against the impending depression with the help of S5E? Yes, S5E, or Silver 5 Electrum, is ready to buy all your weak copper, silver, and gold and hold it in the powerful and practically devaluable precious metal of Electrum. For eons, Electrum was the backbone of trade far and wide until the realm Wizardonomic Conclave pushed the world into adopting the fiat currencies of gold, silver, and copper. 3 worthless metals whose value can fluctuate at any time. And when the economy collapses, do you want to have a simple bag of shiny things when you could have a treasure chest full of the coveted Electrum? Of course not. Just think of how valuable Electrum will be in the Great Collapse. Did you think about it? Of course you did. And I'm sure we both thought of all the brilliant ways Electrum will revolutionize the new world and secure your financial stability in the inevitable collapse of the realm. Just grab your 5e sending stone and send a message to 555 S5E today to turn a simple 100 silver into 200. Hold on a second. 5 silver is 1 Electrum. 1 gold is 2 Electrum. 50 copper is 1. Who thought this crap up? Oh, I mean to turn all your worth of silver into powerful inflation-proof Electrum, the favored currency of the wise and ancient rulers such as the Stradvan Zarevich and all those old dead guys who ruled over strong ancient kingdoms. Yeah, S5E, silver 5 Electrum. 5 Electrum. Who thought this crap up? Like, seriously, wizards, man.
You know, I really wanted to make the joke of trying to jump straight back into the topic, but then you brought me back in when you started shit talking Electrum.
Before you had like the moment of self-reflection of this ad announcer, my visual picture of this was a guy with like a tinfoil hat and like fucked up clothes, like like a suit jacket that was too big on him, and like loose pants, and he's just in the corner talking about Electrum. And then when it's like, oh, this guy's also just doing the ad read. Like, what the fuck is that? What is this? What is this product?
It's called method acting.
But the guy had a point though.
Yes, that it is untrackable currency. Like crypto. That's the crypto, bro.
Yeah. Untraceable currency.
You know, you do like nobody even knows what its value is. Oh my goodness, that'd be so funny to do with Electrum in a campaign.
Make it drug money?
Make it fluctuate in value constantly.
Oh.
Constantly. Make it a rare item in the game that like every once in a while you can find a town crier that's just trying to hawk Electrum and buy your coins, your precious metals,
Yeah.
and trade it into Electrum, and then as you go to spend it, sometimes it's worth a lot, sometimes it's worth a little, sometimes it's worth very little. Oh, have a collapse. Have it like collectively, like it has ups and downs, but it generally goes up. And then we're like, oh, yeah, but, you know, this used to be this really rare thing that like mines, like massive mines, there'd be a tiny bit, but then we found like this huge mine. So now it's worth nothing.
Or yeah, like there's
It's worth nothing at all now.
What's the history of Electrum? Like, what is it? Is it like an ancient currency?
I don't actually know. I did do a teensy bit of research while making the ad. All I know is that like it is actually the currency of Barovia with Strahd.
Is it?
And he stamps his face onto it.
Oh,
So-
is that a Ravenloft introduction?
I'm pretty sure it's lore,
Ooh.
but I can't find anything else.
I'm
really
gonna get in
much else,
trouble
but
for
I know
hating
that
on it now. I got some very big Ravenloft
I know that most
fans.
people who run games use Electrum as like, oh, it's an ancient currency. So that's
okay.
also why I tossed that in there.
I want to use it as a cryptocurrency where it's just its value fluctuates so constantly and sometimes just plummets.
Oh, that when you said that, when you like instead of finding a mine of the metal, it would be like, oh, somebody uncovered an ancient tomb, and there was
and
hordes
there's
of
just
it.
hordes of it.
Yeah. And then of course, give it enough time. It's like
Give it enough
people
time, and
used
then
all it
like
up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just have some like nobleman who's like, to the moon. And then everybody's buying Electrum. All of a sudden, your one little piece that you had left in your pocket is worth like 1,000 gold.
Such a long con to play in a game that's like
I love it.
it just have it going in the background. Well, anyway, suck players.
Oh my god.
uh,
That would make me stuck.
Electrum, it would. I do kind of want to like. I'm just trying to think of situations where I'm your DM, and I want to force you to do something with Electrum as a goof. Because like, I wouldn't really want you to do it, but I definitely would want to present it to you just to see your reaction.
You know that scene of fuck, what was the movie? Dr. Manhattan
Yes.
Watchmen.
and Rorschach.
Oh, the end.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Kill me.
Do it.
You just gotta use the Electrum. Do it.
Do it. You would force my hand. If
When I was playing Red Dead 2, I kept my horse throughout like 3/4 of the campaign. And then something stupid happened in, I forget the big town's name, but in the big town, something stupid happened and it just snowballed into the law being after me. I didn't do shit. It's like one of those things where like an NPC runs in front of you or something when you're riding your horse. Like, just like barely anything. And then it ended up in this big shootout and they killed my horse. And I let Arthur starve. I grew out his beard. I stopped bathing and I started killing every person I saw. Like if there was a lawman, dead on sight. Like I went through this dark period where I was just so bummed out that they killed my fucking horse that anytime I was in that city, I was just like, oh, lawmen on site. I don't care if I'm in a story mission. Lawmen on site. That's where Arthur's at in his life right now. Overall, by the way, this is on like, because I always end up doing this on accident because I don't know. But this is like, I always go for like the Paragon good playthroughs. It just, if it's a fantasy game, I'm always an archer. If it's a fucking choices matter game or if there's an alignment, I always end up Paragon anyways. That was my Paragon run through. And I was able to recover, but like there was a super intense renegade section of that game for me when they killed my fucking horse. And I just went full renegade. I stopped taking care of Arthur completely. I killed lawmen on site. I don't care anymore. Arthur lost his shit. I was genuinely upset. I was like actually viscerally upset in the moment.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
I'm taking it out of
fuck
the game.
everything. I'm taking it out. I'm taking it out on everybody. I don't care anymore. I'm not fucking like bathing anymore. It's just a waste of fucking time. I just need to get this money.
I mean, that's great post-show conversation. Do we have anything else we want to say about Stuck Player?
When the podcasters get stuck.
DM.
I'm just saying,
How do we get out of this?
my players are usually some relatively neutral or good alignment. If you make it a fucking Electrum campaign, that's when Arthur is going to stop taking care of himself. You killed my horse.
Oh God, I do the cop campaign, and then I force you with some Electrum thing. All of a sudden, you're the bad guy now.
Yeah.
And it's just become a campaign.
You want to make my characters a villain? Electrum. Make me need to use it.
You realize your pocket is full of Electrum. As you hold it, your hand shakes. The Electrum
What
slowly
was the movie?
falls
Was the
out of
movie
your grip.
Lawrence Fishburne and Jeff Goldblum Deep Cover? You just make he's in there to take the bad guys out, but now he's an Electrum dealer.
Oh, goodness. Stuck players. Last thing that I can think of to talk about is how you react in terms of how you have reacted and how you should react. And I don't actually know the answer to this, but when you get like to the point where you want to start shrugging your shoulders and throwing your hands up, which I've seen you do, Nix, multiple times at the table. And again, I think that's the DM's fault. And a lot of times it was me as the DM. What should you do as a player? Like, what would be a more appropriate?
Oh, I think if you were to like pinch grip the side of the table and then just like flip it like as fast as you could, like especially if there's like drinks and food on it, you just toss that bad boy and you just go like, do a better job.
Kind of hard to do it with this table.
Yeah, this
is a fucking like 200-300 pound table.
is a massive piece of metal that was welded together when Sob's brother was like, oh, I took a class on welding for 2 weekends. I'm going to make a 200-pound table.
He's used it multiple times. It's a great table.
Oh, it's a great table.
Yeah.
It's a great table. It works great. It's just,
I think he used it recently, actually. I think he had a welding project recently.
Yeah.
What should, you know what? Fuck Nix. Gray, what do you think you should do in a situation like that? Genuinely, how do you think you should react? Like when you start getting to a point where like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in order to solve whatever needs to be solved. Like I know why I'm here. I know what the hook is, but everyone I talk to doesn't seem to have information. Everything I investigate seems to be mundane or unrelated.
At that point, I would try to take an inventory of all the knowledge that I've acquired about the situation, anything that I think is pertinent to the situation, and try to spitball things with the other people in the party.
In character?
In character or out of character, it doesn't matter, as long as they're all privy to the information that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's hard to say because I still have a hard time getting into the mind of my players, especially when the last instance of my players being stuck, they had a bunch of clues saying the people to the east did this. Plus, they had a scroll that said, if you cast me, I will lead you to the answer.
Yeah.
So, kind of difficult for me to figure it out. But that's what I think you should do.
Because it's easy to, when you're the DM, it's so easy to anticipate how they should get out of the situation. But that is the problem, is that there's a disconnect between you and them.
When you feel like you're stuck, the worst thing I think you should do as a player is try to continue grinding into what it is that you think is pertinent. Like,
yes, just continuing to grind, I think, is...
It's like, I've had players investigate and reinvestigate the same room multiple times. It's like, guys, you've got everything that you could have got out of here. Everything that you could have gotten out of this place, you have in your
whether
inventory
it is
or in your
everything
mind.
or it's everything I'm allowing you, this place is done.
Yeah. I've put NPCs in front of them that might give them a better frame of reference. Another way of thinking, another option, another head to bounce ideas off of, and they either don't go to that NPC at all, or don't share anything with them, or
but
stuff like that.
But putting yourself in the mind of a player, if there is a character that your DM controls that is privy to all of the information that you have, that'd be a good avenue.
Yeah.
talk to that NPC.
Yeah.
I think you should, before going above table, if you're feeling that way, I think in character, above table maybe state your intentions, but in character be like, whatever your character is, be like, hey, can we take a moment? Let's go over what we know and what we think is going on and what we think our clues are, or what possible, hooks we have. Can we go over that? Because I'm not quite sure what to do next. And then go over that with the players in character. And if the result of that conversation is empty, then maybe take it above table.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna, like, my serious answer was a little bit of like what we talked about earlier, which is like the intention stating. Oh yeah, flipping tables for sure. But intention stating, where you're like, yes, the probably the first version of it would be you as a player with your character goes to your party. If you realize that you're lost or you don't exactly know what to do, and it looks like nobody else at the table really knows what to do, and you're all kind of banging your head against the wall.
Yeah.
To have your character be like, hey guys, like, all right, let's sit back. Let's talk about where we're at. Let's see, like, what clues do you have? What clues, like, what do we have? Like, do we have any other clues based off of what we're trying to go?
Yeah.
Trying to have that conversation, spark that conversation in the table to get your players to all start talking to each other, especially in character, to be like, maybe somebody gets reminded, oh, we have this scroll, or like, you know what? I kind of remember that this person said that the group is over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, because we had that a little bit in G&G where there was a moment where something was happening, and my character, it already was presented to the rest of the table, but I remembered as a player that my character had this like clue about where the gang was meeting based off of it was like matches. From a particular club, like a strip club or like a tavern or something.
Yeah.
Strip club.
I think it was like a gambling house.
Yeah, like a gambling house. And so like we had that clue, and that was already told to the table, but it had been some time since it happened, and it was just something I reminded the party of as a character in the situation. Yeah. So like, yeah, trying to powwow your players and your fellow players to talk about what you have. And then if that doesn't seem to work, if you want to be like, if I'm stuck as a player, the initial parts of maybe letting that out is that open intention talking to the DM.
Actually, just if I can interject myself there.
Sure.
Before taking it above table, like you just said, and we're like, hey, so I think my character is a little bit lost.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe he's missed something. We know where we've been, we know what we've found, we know who we've talked to, and I feel like there's something in there that maybe got passed over. Can I make an intelligence check or a history check to try and, my intentions are I want to go back over all of the knowledge of everything that we've done so far and see if there's anything that stands out to me as having missed. Ask your DM. That's also just a good out for your DM to just be like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be appropriate to incite the entire table to do that, but it at least opens it up as a concept to your DM, and maybe your DM will do it. But at the very least, do it for your character.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and maybe, this is all maybes because we're talking about doing this from a player, so you don't get to know how the GM will respond to the situation. But maybe your GM does leveled success, and maybe you roll low, and your GM's like, well, you do remember that the blacksmith was a little bit suspicious.
Yeah.
And then if you roll really high, your DM might be like, well, you do remember that the blacksmith was a little bit suspicious when you started asking about drugs.
Yeah.
And then so like, you're just giving an opportunity to your DM to be like, hey, I'm lost, solve this.
Yeah. I mean, what I was getting at in terms of like bringing it to the table was not like, hey, here, the rest of the party, let's powwow about it. It was going to be something like that, which is like, if you're like, hey, your DM goes to you, it's like, all right, my character's really trying to figure out all of the pieces here, but he's not quite really understanding what's happening. I think I want my character to go just through the room again, just a little slower, and kind of take his time to just not even like say like, hey, do the intelligence check thing. Maybe that comes later, but just start.
Well, also, like we've talked about, never ask for a check specifically.
Yeah.
So be like, hey,
just
DM,
start cluing the
can
DM.
can I take some time? I want to sit down,
Yeah,
really take a breather here, and go over everything that we've done so far,
yeah,
and see if anything stands out to me.
yeah.
And then leave it on your DM. If he
Yeah.
wants to make that a check, let it be a check. If he's like, well, if he sees the need there, where he's like, and also like if you frame it like that, where it's like, I think my character is a little bit lost. Can I take this moment to do these things? Blah, 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 blah. Your DM might even just give you that the blacksmith was shady. You know what I mean?
And even then, the cool, or one of the things that might happen if you, again, you don't go so far, you kind of start cluing into as soon as you start feeling a little stuck, because it might just be you. You might start be feeling a little stuck. So if you start kind of cluing a little bit above the table that your character is kind of a little bit lost, somebody else at the table, another player might be like, oh, listen to that. Listen to hear that and go, oh, okay. So like, hey, my character wants to do this thing, or like, oh, can I go over to his character and say, hey, I have this note that says this thing. So like, saying that out loud, that you're feeling a little lost, might help clue another player at the table to kind of come up to you and in role play, start kind of getting the ball rolling in a direction. Granted, you also are cluing in your DM that like,
anything you do at a table clues in your DM.
Yeah. Some of your players might not necessarily know what the next thing to do is.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that does grind a lot of it is, again, how far and how much do you push, like Gray was saying, where it's just like, sometimes a table, no matter what you do, you're trying your best to like clue things in and do what you can.
But doing what we're talking about, where you're like, hey, I think my character's a little bit lost. Let's go over the things we have. Gives Gray the opportunity to be like, well, you got that scroll. I love the deep sigh.
Go witness my frustration on Intermission Campaign 2, His Will Eternal, Episode 2, into Episode 3.
I like the into Episode 3 part.
Yes.
That's why.
No, Episode 3 into Episode 4, because there was only supposed to be 4 episodes. So 3 episodes. So,
as far as investigating the room over and over again, if you're a player and you've done a task and you think as a player, and it is fine to think this, that something was missed, you can ask your DM.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, my instincts as a player are to go back and check that room again. I feel like maybe something was missed, but I don't know that my character would think that, because they went and investigated and found nothing. Does that seem like something, my character might think is a waste of time, blah, blah, blah? Like a little bit of like back and forth with your DM of like,
yes, it's a waste of time, please.
yes.
Look.
Yeah.
You could shake.
Do you think it's reasonable?
You could shake the tree, and when fruits fall from it, you found something.
Yeah.
But when you shake the tree again, there's no more fruit. Find another tree.
Yeah. But you can kind of
Or
like,
keep shaking.
hey, is it ridiculous that my instincts as a player are to go back to this room, but also I don't want to waste any time at the table? Does that seem like a reasonable thing to do in your world? Does it seem like a reasonable thing to do in this story? And as a DM, that gives you the opportunity to be like, well, whether there was something in the room or not, your character probably has already determined that there isn't, considering you've thoroughly checked the room and multiple people have thoroughly checked the room. So it's not necessarily that isn't anything in there, but you probably don't think that there is. And that just gives your players the opportunity to be like, all right, I'll just move on. Fuck it.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot players can do to help a DM move
Yeah.
a story along, to give DMs opportunity. I mean, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
You got it. You got it, champ. You did a good job.
DMs are just people.
Yeah, and
They
players are
also just
people.
have their own fucking perspective of how the world works. They have their own style in which they run games. And sometimes it doesn't line up with what you're doing. And sometimes they need an out. And it's hard to find an out because there's no NPCs around. There's no checks that would make sense
Yeah.
in the instance. So if you as a player are feeling some type of way, find a respectful way to get your DM involved.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like that's the big problem. Is it's just not the problem, but like that's what happens. It's everyone has kind of their own ways of approaching things.
Yeah.
And sometimes as your DM might have tried to anticipate as many routes as they can to get to the thing they're doing, or maybe they just thought what they were setting up was so obvious that there was no need to set up multiple routes to get there, and it's just stuff like that happens, and it sucks that sometimes that can result in like some people getting frustrated and maybe never even returning to the game, and like some DMs being like, well, I don't even want to do this anymore because this or that or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's all practice, and it's all like it just takes time to get better at certain things and to have certain things happen, and to just kind of like understand that like, okay, maybe I approach this thing this way. And again, as much open communication as you can have, stating the intention stuff, and like,
Nah. Don't tell your DM
Yeah.
your backstory. Don't tell
No,
them your
no, no, no.
intentions.
keep everything so close to the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, never
Play a
say-
character that is like telepathic and literally can't even speak to anybody.
Yeah.
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 And then go sit in the corner of the bar.
Yeah. Also, like, be a DM, invite people over, have them all sit at the table, and then just don't say anything. I'm like, no, you guys play the game.
Or just
Go.
or just open up with a TPK.
Yes, invite everybody over, send them into a dungeon, make it impossibly hard, kill everybody, and then when everyone's dead, go like, sorry guys, I had a bad day.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, cool. Thank you. Thank you for I guess we're cool with just you letting your frustrations out on all of us.
On us. Yeah.
Yeah.
On us specifically. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's good
times.
DMs and then there's really good DMs. I do love the idea of starting a campaign that way of just be like, hey, everybody make characters. Here's the story. And then like session 1 be like, cool, there's a Tarask. You're all fucking dead. Realize the consequences that I'm willing to put on with you or to you as a character. Remember that this is only session 0. Now you make a real character. No, it can't be the same build.
Or you could do it where it I feel like it stings a little more, which is, hey, everyone come over. Cool, everyone's having good. Session 1, great. Everyone's cool. We're going to go here. Awesome. Session 2. All right, you guys are in the place that you were scouting. Yeah, guess what? It's a fucking demi-lich. Fucking eat shit. Go
Yeah.
home. All right, man. Damn.
Make a new character.
Cool.
Lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
Well-
Well, that's a show.
We really know how to end these things.
And that's a show.
All
That's it.
All right, flip the table.
All right. Thank you for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. Please go to our website or our Patreon, become members, get some extra content. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit bells on the little YouTube's buttons. That way we could have cool links and more
Yep.
subscribers and make more content.
Yeah.
Comment stuff.
Yeah.
Great. Do you have a bullshit hook for people to comment in the comment section?
Tell us the last time you got stuck and how stupid it was that you did.
Yeah. There you go.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Also, tell us the last time your DM TPK'd you.
Yeah. Jeez, yeah.
I'm Sav. You can find me over at startplaying.games. If you want to join any of my games, more than welcome to. I think at the moment I only actually have one with a seat available, but I do have other time slots available. So feel free to reach out, find out what games that I run, or otherwise make a custom request. I love homebrew, and I love making shit from the ground up. So if you have an idea of a world or a story that you would like to be inserted in, hit me up.
Yeah. I'm Nix, and I have my YouTube link in the description. And also, we decided to make every other post show free and available on our website for free to the public.
I feel like we should almost stop announcing those things if we're going to change them.
Why?
Just because they change by the time anybody hears it.
Oh. As far as I'm aware, we're going to keep the every other one free on the Patreon on the website.
But now,
If anything, you could just call us liars.
yeah.
As soon as you're like, hey, you
Well,
said
any
this.
of them that we release for free will stay for free for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, you can catch that, and that'll give you a little sneak peek at the content that we release, the other 2 post shows from our recordings.
Yeah. Cool. That's it for me.
Greythorn, link somewhere in the description, I'm sure. I'm gonna be playing a game again. I'm pretty sure before this episode even airs.
Yes. probably.
It's gonna be a 0th level campaign. Basically, they're gonna have a class, but they're not gonna have any feats of any kind. That'll be interesting. They'll have cantrips available to a level 1 wizard, and they'll have a single spell available to level 1 wizard that casts once a day. And it should be fun. Yeah, the lowest level class game I've ever played.
0.
Nice.
0.
I'm gonna run a game with just commoners.
They're not getting HP dice. They're not rolling their HP dice, they don't get their first dice and then add their con. They're rolling it. So they're gonna have a D6 of HP.
They should just have their con.
Dude,
I was thinking that.
play a game where everyone is commoners. You play with AD&D heal rules. they don't get better. You're just
No. You're fully healed in a single day because you got 1 HP.
Love it. All right, thanks for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. We will see you next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.